In the sleepless heart of New York City, where people's dreams often drowned in the noise of ambition, a young waitress named Emily Clark lived her quiet battles every single day. The diner where she worked smelled of burnt coffee and cheap perfume, a place where laughter echoed, but not the good kind. People came for quick meals and quicker gossip. "Hey, sweetheart," a regular would call out, smirking. "You missed a spot. Oh, wait. You missed your life too." The laughter that followed was cruel. But Emily only smiled. She needed the job. She needed the tips. And she needed to believe that kindness, even in small doses, could still matter in a world that had forgotten how to care. But what she didn't know was that someone was watching her. Every evening, Richard Dalton, a man of quiet authority and piercing blue eyes, sat in the corner booth. He owned half the skyscrapers she passed on her way to work. But to Emily, he was just another customer who liked black coffee and silence. He watched how she treated every customer the same, kindly, gently, no matter how they treated her. And somewhere in that small diner, filled with noise, Richard saw something rare: goodness without a motive. That day, fate decided to stir the pot. It started with a tray and ended with humiliation. Emily's trembling hands slipped, glasses shattered, cola spilled, and laughter exploded. "Can't even carry a drink?" a woman sneered. "You're lucky anyone even hires you." Emily bent down, her face burning as tears threatened to fall. She whispered an apology, her voice breaking. Then, the sound of a chair scraping cut through the noise. Richard stood up. His calm voice carried more power than a shout. "That's enough," he said, eyes sharp as glass. "You've had your fun." The diner fell silent. He walked over, knelt beside Emily, and helped her up. "You deserve better," he said softly. "Don't let them define your worth." And that moment changed everything. The next day, Richard returned. Not for coffee, but for her smile. And then he came again. And again. Their conversations began with small talk, then grew into late-night confessions over steaming mugs. "I used to sleep in my car," Richard admitted once. Emily blinked, surprised. "Rich now," he finished, with a faint smile. They spoke of hope, of heartbreak, of how people wear masks to hide their pain. Emily didn't see a billionaire. She saw a man who understood what loneliness felt like, and Richard saw light in a world he'd long thought was cold. Soon, everyone at the diner noticed the way his eyes followed her, the way she glowed when he entered. Love was blooming, quiet but unstoppable. If you believe kindness can change someone's life, hit the like button right now. And tell us in the comments, have you ever been underestimated, only to rise stronger? Don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories that will touch your heart. Weeks later, under the silver moonlight, Richard surprised her. He took her to a private island, a place so silent that even the waves whispered gently. A soft melody played, and a candlelit dinner sparkled under the stars. "Emily," he said, taking her hand, "from the moment I saw you, I knew you were different. You made me believe in love again." Her heart pounded. Then came the words that would change her life. "Will you marry me?" Her hands shook. Tears fell freely. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes. 1,000 times yes." The next months were a dream. The same waitress who once counted pennies now walked the marble halls of the Dalton Estate, hand in hand with the man who loved her. But fairy tales come with shadows. Standing on the grand staircase the day she moved in was Margaret Dalton, Richard's mother. Her posture was perfect, her smile sharp. Behind her stood his sisters, Victoria and Isabel, as poised and cold as their diamonds. "Home?" Margaret said softly, each syllable like frost. "A waitress's place is in the diner, not in the Dalton Estate." Emily's smile faltered. She looked at Richard, who squeezed her hand gently. "She's my wife," he said firmly, "and she belongs wherever I am." But Margaret's eyes said what her lips didn't. "This isn't over." Emily tried. She truly did. She learned their customs, attended charity galas, smiled for the cameras. But for every step she took forward, someone made sure she stumbled 2 steps back. Victoria would accidentally spill wine on her new dress. Isabel would whisper lies to the staff. She's just pretending. She's after his money. And Margaret? She simply watched. Silent, calculating. Still, Emily stayed kind, stayed hopeful. Until one evening, during a grand family dinner, Margaret finally struck. "Tell us, dear," she said sweetly, her voice sugar-coated poison. "How does it feel to live a life you didn't earn?" The table went dead silent. Emily's heart pounded, but she smiled softly. "It feels humbling," she said. "Because love isn't something you earn. It's something you give." Even Richard froze, awed by her calm grace. But Margaret's eyes burned with a new fire. That night, as Emily walked the empty halls, she heard whispers Isabel's voice, hushed and frantic. "Mother, please. It's gone too far." "Hush," Margaret snapped. "Sometimes, to protect a legacy, you must destroy what threatens it." Emily froze behind the wall, her blood running cold. What did she mean? Before she could find out, the next morning brought a storm that would tear her world apart. The morning after that uneasy dinner, the Dalton mansion was quieter than usual. Too quiet. Emily woke to a strange tension in the air, hushed whispers, servants avoiding eye contact, and an eerie silence that followed her down the hall. Something was wrong. When she reached the main sitting room, she froze. On the grand table lay a velvet jewelry box, one she had never seen before. Inside gleamed a diamond necklace, worth more than she could imagine, and beside it stood Margaret, arms folded, face unreadable. Richard was there too, pale, tense, his eyes filled with confusion. "Emily," he said slowly, "they found this in your room." Her heart stopped. "What?" Margaret's voice was calm, too calm. "Our family heirloom was missing. I suggested we search the guest rooms." Imagine our surprise. Emily's eyes widened. I would never." But before she could finish, Margaret slid a document across the table. Security confirmed fingerprints on the box. "Yours." The world tilted. Emily's legs gave way, and she stumbled back. Richard caught her, his hands trembling. "Emily, tell me this isn't true." Tears filled her eyes. "You know me, Richard. I would never steal from anyone." Margaret's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Of course, dear. Women like you always say that." The words cut deeper than any knife. That night, the mansion was divided. Staff whispered. Guests stared. And Emily's name was already stained before the truth had a chance to breathe. She spent the night sitting by the window of her room, staring into the rain-soaked darkness. Every lightning flash illuminated her reflection, a woman the world had decided was guilty. She whispered to herself, "Don't cry. Don't break." But her voice cracked anyway. Down the hall, Richard stood alone in his office, torn between 2 worlds, the family he'd been born into, and the woman who had changed his heart. His mother's words echoed in his head, "She'll ruin everything you've built." And then, Emily's voice, gentle, honest, trembling. "You know me." He didn't sleep that night. By morning, Emily made a decision. She walked into the dining room, where Margaret and the sisters sat for breakfast, as if nothing had happened. Her eyes were swollen, but her voice was steady. "If you believe I took it," she said quietly, "then I'll leave. I won't fight for a place where I'm not wanted." Richard stood abruptly. "You're not going anywhere." Margaret's tone was sharp. "And what will you do, Richard? Marry a thief in front of society?" He glared at her. "I already married a woman with more dignity than this entire family combined." For the first time, Margaret's mask slipped rage, flashing in her eyes. But before more could be said, a voice broke through the tension. It was Clara, the head maid, a woman who had always watched silently from the sidelines. Her hands trembled as she held out a USB drive. "I think you should see this," she said. In Richard's study, they plugged in the footage from the mansion's hallway cameras. For a moment, static. Then, movement. A figure creeping down the corridor in the dark of night. Slender frame, long hair, familiar. Emily held her breath. The video showed Isabel, one of Richard's sisters, sneaking into Emily's room. In her hands, the same velvet jewelry box. The room fell dead silent. When the lights came back on, Isabel was crying. "I'm sorry," she burst out. "Mother made me do it. She said Emily didn't belong here. She said it was the only way." Margaret's face went pale. "Enough, Isabel," but Richard's voice cut like thunder. "Stop lying." He turned to his mother. "How could you?" Margaret's composure shattered. "I did it for you," she cried. "She'll ruin everything, our reputation, our name." Richard's voice trembled with anger and heartbreak. "The only thing you ruined is our honor." Margaret's lip quivered. For once, she had no answer. Emily stood silently, her heart pounding. She could have screamed. She could have demanded revenge. But instead, she stepped forward, calm, steady, her voice barely above a whisper. "I forgive you." Everyone froze. "You thought you were protecting your family," she said softly, looking at Margaret. "But families don't need protection from love. They need healing." Her words broke something inside the older woman. Margaret's shoulders sank as tears filled her eyes, tears she'd spent years hiding. I was wrong," she whispered. Richard reached for Emily's hand. "You've shown more grace today than anyone I've ever known." Weeks passed. Slowly, the Dalton family began to heal. Isabel, guilt-ridden, apologized sincerely. Victoria followed, finally seeing that Emily was not the enemy, she was the missing heart of their fractured home. Even Margaret began to soften. She would often find Emily in the garden and stand nearby, pretending to admire the roses, too proud to apologize aloud. Until one evening, she finally did. It was sunset. The sky blazed orange and gold, and the air smelled of jasmine. Margaret approached Emily quietly. Emily turned, smiling through tears. And when it's real, it changes everything. For the first time, Margaret reached out and took her hand. Months later, on the same island where Richard had once proposed, the Daltons gathered not for wealth, not for show, but for family. Emily sat beside Richard, watching their children chase the tide. Margaret laughed softly in the distance, finally at peace. The wind carried the scent of salt and hope. Richard turned to his wife. "You were worth every battle, every storm," he said. Emily rested her head on his shoulder, her voice barely a whisper. "And you taught me that love can bloom anywhere, even in the heart of a diner." As the sun disappeared beyond the sea, the waves whispered their story. Kindness is not weakness. Forgiveness is not surrender. And true love always finds its way home. If you believe kindness can heal, even the deepest wounds, hit the like button right now. And tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were Emily? Don't forget to subscribe for more emotional stories that prove. Sometimes, the softest hearts fight the hardest battles.